Here we go. If this is your first year as a school contact, would you raise your hands? And so that we can just see you and give you our heartfelt thank you for being here and helping your students, and without a doubt helping us, because we cannot do this without all of you supporting your students at your school. So we can't do it. So if we were in person, you would be standing up and we would be clapping. So I want you to know that we are clapping ourselves. Let's talk about a few changes for the 22-23 school year. First of all, in the application process, the selection of free and reduced meals, which is done in the parent portion of the application, there will be a question, just one question, that will say, are you eligible for free and reduced meals? Should they select yes, then they will be directed to an additional form where they will then upload the document that they have received from their school that supports the fact that they are in fact receiving free and reduced meals. And we'll talk a little bit later about the importance of this particular document. Also, test sites. There's been a realignment. We have 17. There are 11 in Fairfax, 1 in Arlington, 2 in Prince William, and 3 in Loudoun. For those of you who have never helped us in this capacity, you may or may not know that you must test in your jurisdiction of residency. So the only area where this does not apply is for the city of Falls Church. And because they do not have a test site assigned there, they may go to any of the test sites. Historically, I believe they go to one of the Fairfax because it's closest for them. Also, something new this year for Fairfax school contacts, you're not entering marks. It will happen automatically. But for out of county, you will find a space available when you enter grades to include any summer school math courses that may have been taken that would be on the student's transcript. So this is something new that we have never done before. Many of you, no doubt, are aware of the fact that we have had pending legislation against us, the school division and the admissions process for a year and a half, 2 years. The Federal Appeals Court heard the oral arguments in September, and the anticipated ruling, we're hoping is sooner rather than later. But definitely, we do believe that it will be within the next 30 to 60 days. The impact potentially could result in changes to the admissions process. And so we have known this in this office for some time, but just to let you all know that the impact could be in varying degrees. But we rest assured, as soon as we know something, we will let you know. It could be that everybody knows at the same time we do if it's released in that type of format. But this could have impact on what we're doing. We, however, are moving forward to open up our application process, and we'll deal with it as it comes. As I said in my email to you all, this is part of rigid flexibility. So for those of you who have been with us before, we appreciate your being here. And a lot of this will be probably fairly old news for you, but I think it's important to refresh yourselves since we do this once a year. The eligibility requirements are you must be in 8th grade to apply to 9th. You must reside in a participating school division, and we currently have 5. And those are, of course, Fairfax, Arlington, Loudoun, Prince William, and the City of Falls Church. The honors requirements vary by jurisdiction, and we're going to go over that in detail in just a minute. However, one thing also that when this process changed back in December 2020, when the school board voted on these changes, is the GPA must be a 3.5. So that includes final marks in 7th grade and first quarter 8th grade. Now for 7th grade, if you're taking a world language and it's the A portion is in 7th grade and the B portion is in 8th grade, that A portion is not for high school credit. So you would not be including that in the GPA. For 8th grade, your world language most likely is in fact a high school credit. So potentially you would have 4 marks in 7th grade, and first quarter 8th grade potentially would have 5 grades that we're looking at. What's really important when your students, if they come to you and they have a question about the GPA, they can go to our website. There is under the freshman application process, it talks about calculating the GPA. But if a student, with your help or our help, however they determine it, if they calculate a GPA that's 3.39 or below, they really should not apply, because mathematically it's impossible to elevate those final marks in 7th grade that were for a year of study with first quarter marks in 8th grade. If they come to you and they have a 3.45 or something along those lines, I wouldn't tell them not to apply, but I would tell them that their 8th grade marks really are going to need to be strong in order for them to have that, to meet that threshold of the 3.5. So I hope that that makes sense to all of you. Here we have the honors requirements that we were talking about in the previous slide. When Fairfax, the school board, determined that their students must meet 3 honors requirements, which are Algebra 1 honors, Science honors, and English or Civics, they knew that not all jurisdictions offer the same courses. So here it is spelled out. Prince William has Algebra 1 honors and English honors. Falls Church City is the same. Loudoun is Algebra 1, but then Science honors and English or Civics. Arlington is only Algebra intensified. So basically, your students need to be enrolled in the classes that are appropriate for your jurisdiction that meet the requirement. Also, for Fairfax County, if you have a student who is a designated young scholar, then the English or Civics requirement can be foregone if they are a young scholar. That replaces it. And the same way with Loudoun County, it can be replaced with, in the EDGE program, for the English or social studies requirement. So you will have this, because we will send this out to you all as a PDF. So you will have this form especially for that consideration. Are there any questions right now? Any
Linda, I'll just, I want to jump in, and I know for example, for Prince William County, you don't call it honors. I believe it's extended is the course name. So before we send it out, we might make just a slight adjustment there. So if we have it titled, if the title is not the title that you use in the county, just let us know which one it is, and so that we can then kind of work with that in terms of adjusting it. And Linda, there's a couple questions in here about private schools. I would actually throw in homeschools, things of that nature. Can we go ahead and answer that? But I do believe that there was someone else that wanted to ask a question, and so we'll let her ask the question first before we address the private schools.
Go ahead, whoever had the question.
Sorry, so I'm in Prince William County, but before, did they have to be in extended language arts also? Because I remember we had lots of people applying that weren't necessarily in the extended or
Well,
the advanced language arts.
And I believe the English honors, this is one place where I believe that needs to be changed to the proper language, which is the language arts.
So, does it need, because
Yeah.
we have regular language arts and then we have extended, which is.
Yes.
It would have to be the extended language arts. And so we need to change that on this form to reflect that.
Okay, thank
But
you.
yeah, I think that to answer your question, if I understood what you're asking, is they need to be in the extended Algebra 1 course,
Mhm.
and they had to be in the language arts extended course as well. I believe that's the titles that Prince
Yeah.
William uses.
Yeah,
So
it is.
they need to be in both of those. The honors is just realistically honors. I think we all understand what the intention was behind the honors. The way that our school board changed the language around this is that they wanted the students to be in the more advanced courses that was being offered to students in the grade level in the core areas. And so some of you, depending upon the school in which you're in, again, this is from a public school standpoint. I'll let Linda address the private schools in just a moment. You don't have, as you can see here from everyone, it's varied from county to county. And in some cases, it might be varied from school to school. So, that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying not to penalize students in school divisions if your course offerings for your students is different than what it is from one county to another. Specifically, if you're looking at how, Fairfax County, our course offerings are relatively expansive for our students. But if that's not what you have for your school division, that's fine. We're not trying to penalize those students in that situation. Linda, I'm going to kick it over to you for the private.
Okay. First of all, in the chat regarding the trimester system, I believe for trimesters, most of the students will have grades by December 2nd. So as soon as you have those grades, please get them entered into the out-of-county grades sheet on the staff portal that you work on for the school contact portal. I believe that's what we did some research, and that's what we discovered. For private schools that do not have honors classes, but higher math classes, the requirement would be that they would need to be enrolled in the highest level algebra available in 8th grade. They would not be designated that they have to be enrolled in geometry, but if you have different levels of algebra, they would need to be enrolled in the highest level of algebra in your school. And hopefully that answers that question. Kara, so if the student is not in the advanced language arts, they are not eligible. You are correct. They are not. And my understanding from talking to Prince William that enriched science is only at certain schools. And so that is not a requirement as a result, is not a requirement for the entire county. Tammy. Okay, any other questions? We'll do our best to keep up. So for you people who are new, and thank you very much. What is your role? Well, we work with up to 120 schools, private schools, public schools, families who are homeschooling. You are the direct connection for us at that school. We cannot possibly know, nor do we have the resource to find out what level math class or honors level classes your student is enrolled in. So it is up to you to be our filter to determine that. And as I said previously, for you out of county public and private schools, you will be required also to enter your marks in the system even before the application process ends, because I believe those marks will be available after the end of October, 1st of November. And here again, based upon your county, your jurisdiction, the indication to make sure that they are in the correct level of courses. Going back to the chat, Anna Broussel, yes, if they're a young scholar, they can be in regular English.
Linda, just so that you know, I'm trying to answer some of those.
Oh, okay.
That way you can continue with this.
Okay,
And then when you stop, if there was a question that I missed in terms of messages, or if there's one I think would be good for the
The
larger
group.
group to talk about, we can bring it back up. So I was
Thank
just
you.
trying.
Thank
so
you,
that way we
Jeremy.
can continue to move forward. Sorry.
No, I appreciate that very much. Thank you. Okay, everyone, we're looking at the staff portal. Everyone should have a username. If you're a new counselor, you're from out of county, you will have a C01 number assigned as a counselor. If you are an FCPS, you're going to use your Outlook username as your login and your password. And then our app system validates against the Active Directory for FCPS. So you should have your username and a password in order to enter into the system. You could log in now, but you're not really going to see anything. Everything will open up at 4 p.m. on the 24th regarding your actual, your list will start filling as the applications come in. Here are the tabs. This is what for this page I want you to look at, because there's some new information up here based upon what the school board did. And we have implemented it into the system this year because we could update the application process. So we've always had the applicants, the non-FCPS marks, that's where you will go in and enter your grades. The qualified applicants, those are the ones that we will run a report in our system in early December, and we will determine what students perhaps unfortunately did not meet the GPA and does not meet the honors requirement for their jurisdiction. And so that will basically be an updated list of applicants who are now qualified and meet the minimums in order to move forward in the evaluation process. So that is something new. We do not have teacher recommendations at this time. The finalist list will fill at an appropriate time. And I'm not even sure you see that tab until final decisions are released. You do receive the school math profile and the honors, and we're going to show you more about those in just a minute. I want you all to see what we have been telling. We have just completed addressing 3,400 students in-person presentations, Nancy and Jeremy and I. So Nancy actually just completed the last one yesterday. And so we're very excited about the extremely strong turnout that we had and our ability to answer questions, a lot of, to correct some misinformation that people had and just to be able to talk to them. So when we go in, we talk to the students and we tell them that the applicant must begin the process. The parent should not, but the applicant must begin the process. And once they do, they will log in as either the FCPS student or they will create an account as a non-FCPS student. And once they do that, then they will be asked to enter their last name, first name, middle name, their birth date, the name of a parent, and an email address of a parent. And they will then say, once they do that, two things happen. The first thing is that the parent receives an an auto-generated email based upon the email that the students have entered in the system. And in that email is their link to create the parent account. The other thing that happens is their name will appear on the appropriate applicant list for the school contact at their school. Now, as we have been telling the 3,400 that we have spoken to, that our promise to our school contacts is that they will have 24 to 48 hours to verify the math. Because your help to us, you have volunteered, we're not paying you. And so you have a 48-hour window, which we also tell them does not begin until the next morning. If they start something on a Monday night or a Friday night, it does not begin until that next workday morning. So you all have your 48-hour window to complete this process. Once that is done, we also tell them that they will receive an auto-generated email once you have completed the verification of their math class. And it will then tell them they may go back in and complete the application. So for FCPS families, there's very little that they have to do other than select a test site, and all families will have to do that. They may have to upload a document regarding the free and reduced meals. Or if they have a student that requires accommodations, then they will need to go to the additional forms tab that's going to be located on the right-hand side when the parent logs in and creates the account, and go to the request for testing accommodations. They will then be directed to upload their supporting 504 or IEP so that we can go back to them and verify that the accommodation or accommodations they are requesting have been supported by the supporting documentation. Once they've done that, and the application itself is only 7 screens. It's really, there's not much that, even for families who have to complete all of the demographic information, and that's what it is. It's addresses, names, all of that. For the FCPS, we pulled all this information out of SIS. So what we find sometimes, families will call and say, for FCPS family, that there is an error perhaps in their ethnicity. And what we will do is we will direct them to go back to their middle school, because we have uploaded information that we cannot nor should not be able to change. We will send them to student services, and the parent will need to make any correction there. What they don't know, and we tell them, when we want you all to know if they come to you, is that our application will never reflect the update. It's a static document. Once it's uploaded, it's there. It doesn't evolve, and all these changes that come in, they are then reflected. It does not happen. So we tell the families up front so they are not concerned that, well, I made the change 2 weeks ago. I'm still concerned that it's not showing up. So that's a bit of information for you to know. Once that happens, the applicant and the parent both electronically sign, and then either of them will submit. Here again, once they do that, then there's another auto-generated email that will be sent to both of them, telling them that the application has been submitted. If you have a student that comes to you and they're confused about their status in the application, if they open up their application for you, there are 2 places in there that we tell the families to go to monitor the process. The first one is to the applicant progress tab, and that basically gives them a running list of things that are completed or pending. The other place is the correspondence tab. In that correspondence tab, they will find every auto-generated email or email that we have composed and sent to them through the system. So especially at time of application, the families are nervous that in fact they submitted and they can't go back and submit, but did we really get the information? If they call our office, we will very kindly ask them to log back into the application and to go to that correspondence tab so they know for themselves they have the proof that they have submitted. So that's something you can do if they come to you. This is what your math verification page, for you who've never done this before, will look like once you have your applicant's name starting to appear. And once you have verified it, you will see it has a check mark. And then ultimately, once the application is submitted, you will see a check mark on that side. You will still see first teacher, second teacher. We are not using recommendations, but this has not been removed from the application process. If by chance we would ever need to go back and add them back in, but there's nothing that will appear in those boxes at this point in time that we're aware of, because we're not using it. The same is true when it comes to the applicant details. This is the first page you will see when you open the ID number on the previous page. That's where you will go to the drop down and you will select their math. And if they do not meet, then you need to go to the not met and select that box. The previous form also, this is where it talks about teacher recommendations. And previously there was a payment involved, which no longer, that was one thing that was taken away also. Okay, so we talked about the math profile and the honors requirements. You will go in one time at some point, preferably when you first go in, and you are going to update the information for the math profile and the honors requirements. For example, math profile. What is the highest math course taught to 8th graders at your school? And we just ask you to select one radio button. And then what is your math sequence? So we know for most public schools, it will be Algebra 1/honors, Geometry /honors, Algebra 2. If it is not, then we ask you to either to select the second radio button or to let us know what it is. And then ultimately, all we're asking is that you click the questions above have been approved and verified, and you save it. And you go there one time, and that's it. And
Linda,
yes,
Can you go back to that slide for a moment?
yes. Oops, or not.
Okay, so just for your information, unless you're a brand new school, this information will be saved from previous years. It just moves forward. All we need you to do is approve and verify that it hasn't changed. The other one is we have a couple of secondary schools. I don't think we have an intermediate school anymore. I know that Loudon did have an intermediate school at one point in time. But in those secondary schools, what we're talking about in terms of the highest level math is what's the typical available math for them as an 8th grader. And so, while in a secondary school or some of those others, or an intermediate school that has 9th or even 10th grade in it, they may be beyond that Algebra 2 option. Use your best judgment in terms of, is it just the rare individual student that is beyond Algebra 2? Or is it, there's an actual course that's available for those students. And we're using your judgment. So we're going to use we're not going to question you on this. It's the best idea that you have for those. And again, if it's something other than that, some of our private schools have different sequences or have different courses that are taught. Maybe they have a combo course. Please enter that in the other. Or something along those lines. Okay, so we just wanted to make sure that part is that part's clear at this stage. A brand new school, and we have a couple, you would actually have to enter it for the first time. Okay, Linda, sorry.
Thank you. No, thank you. Okay, our honors requirement. It's the same thing. And this is a new page. This we have not had before, so it will not have been completed previously. So we're basically asking what is available there. It's very self-explanatory. So the application will become available Monday at 4 p.m. I will be sending out an email 4th of November, right around that time frame, as a reminder for you to begin entering grades, even though the application window is still open. Going back to our promise to our school contacts that you have 48 hours to verify math. The last time a student may begin a new application is at 4 p.m. on Wednesday, November 16th. Because then that's the 48-hour window before the deadline for submission, which is at 4 p.m. on November 18th. The December 2nd date is the deadline for grades to be entered. And that also goes back to our schools with the trimesters. We think that we're going to be able to make all of that work. Our current essay and SPS administration at the test sites is scheduled for Saturday, February the 4th. And there will be more information coming about that. The historical arrival time for that is between 7:30 and 7:45 for administration to begin, instruction to begin at 8 a.m. As I say, there will be more information coming about that. For students with accommodations, their test date, particularly if it is with extended time, would be testing with us on Friday, February 10th. And as you can see, there are inclement weather dates for both of those. Based upon that, and here again, going back to our litigation page, we understand that this calendar is rigidly flexible. And so we are giving you information based upon everything that we know at this minute. So it will also be subject to review should whenever final decision regarding the litigation is resolved. One thing about this too, for rolling grade books, and I expect this will be a question, that the final date for grades to be pulled will be Friday, November 18th. So the students, they have from the end of October through the 18th of November, because we know grades are going to be released. So if they have something incomplete and it's going to be impactful, they need to make sure that everything is in the system by November 18th at 4 p.m. regarding the rolling grade books.
Oh, okay, you're getting ready to go to questions. So I did have a question. Can you go back to the calendar?
Yes.
So there's a question on what is SPS. The SPS is just an acronym for our student portrait sheet. It is the essays that the students will complete. So there are 4 student portrait sheet questions that students will respond to. They'll have an hour of time to be able to respond to those 4 questions, and then the problem solving essay. This will occur Saturday morning on February 4th. They'll have an hour and a half of total testing time to be able to do that. And that's the only time that they come in and take any type of examination. It's all short answer essay examination. Back to you, Linda.
Okay. Are there any other questions? I'm going to stop sharing. Jeremy, do you think that's a safe thing to do right now at this time?
Actually, you might want to leave it up in case there's a question we want to kind of scroll back.
Go back to?
Yeah. I believe I've caught between Nancy and I think we've caught everyone's questions that have been in the chat. If perhaps I missed one, please, just flag your, raise your hand and just ask for the good of the group. But I think I've responded to all the questions that were in the chat. So there was one question, and I think that if this applies to you, and you're a private school, so there were a couple different questions about the honors levels. So what I will say is you're probably going to need to reach out to us so we have a better idea of your particular school and whether you have an advanced level. So let's take the science as the example. If you have, for your 8th grade students, you basically have 2 different levels of science. And you might not call it honors. Again, honors is our generic, honors is what Fairfax County calls it. So that's what the generic term that we're using here. You call it something different. We are looking for them to be in that more advanced level, particular course. And so we want to make sure that these things are accounted for and that the students are in those higher level courses. So if this applies to you and your school, reach out to any one of us here so that way we can kind of have a deeper conversation with you about what's offered, what's expected. So we can then say, okay, for your particular students, the courses that they need to be enrolled in are, and then we can identify which courses those are. Because as you saw from the chart that was listed earlier, there's great variance from school division to school division, and I would say there's even potential variance within an individual school, and so we want to make sure that we have that as well.
Other questions?
Okay, so there's a couple questions about the SPS and the essay. More questions about that. This is something that if you're a test site, we will be providing training to you in the beginning part of January. If you are not a test site, so you're not responsible for testing, you can kind of, pass that off at this point in time. So we will provide training for those, what we call our test site supervisors, who would then share that information out to proctors, examiners, and anyone that will be in the building and needs to know about that.
I do not have anything else to share. If we have no questions.
Just a question that popped up, email. So emails in terms of when students apply, there is a trigger within the system that starts emails. It does not, I don't believe that it has changed. I don't think you get an email right at the very beginning of the application window. So what we request is that you're checking this you don't have to check it all day long. Maybe it's just a part of your morning routine or your end of the school day routine, whatever. You just pop in, you look, you see. There will be, once it gets closer to the end of the window, where you will receive an email that says, hey, a new student has applied. But that has to do with the the November 16th and 18th type of timeframes. And so that's where we're talking about in terms of that. And then there was another question for those of you that are test sites. Should I recruit examiners, proctors? I would say yes, you can start to recruit people for that at this point in time if you want. We don't know how many students will be signed up for your site. So at this point in time, we can't give you, kind of the numbers. But if you wanted to reach out, Linda keeps a running record of historic numbers for your school and what it used to be in previous years. So if your school's held testing in previous years, certainly she's able to go back and pull that and say, hey, this is kind of the ballpark of numbers. And then we'll be able to give you a better idea once we get after we get through the application window.
Okay, I see a question here from Carrie Schaefer about the SA and the SPS administration. And what I would suggest is that you yourself may want to go back to our main page of our website. And Jeremy and I recorded a YouTube video. It's 31 minutes long. And first of all, it's about the school. If you're new as a new contact school liaison counselor for us, I think you would find it very helpful. And I can include, well, you have the link for the website, but I would be happy to include it when I send a PDF of the slides to you all. But I think you would find that very helpful because it talks about in detail, it talks about the topics that the students will be asked to write about. Oh, there you go. So Jeremy or Nancy just shared it into the chat room. So that's where you go to watch the video. I strongly suggest it. We've been talking to the 3,400 students we've talked to and their parents. It was a very truncated version of that 31-minute YouTube video, but we talked specifically beginning with the application and then going through the writing administration, the hour-and-a-half time broken down, what the topics would be, including the problem-solving essay, math or science. So I think you would find that much more informative to go there. And you could even just fast forward to one part, but I think you would find as a new school contact, the whole thing would be very helpful to you. Another thing that we did talk about, something that was instituted when we went with the 1.5%, and we're not really talking about that piece a lot today or at all today. We have like a rolling offer situation, which we have not done prior to this. Will be our third year doing it. Basically, decisions will be released. 550 offers will be given. So you will either receive an offer of admission, not an offer, or if you would like to remain in the wait pool. So intent forms have to be returned to us if you've received an offer or wish to remain in the wait pool. So if students come back and they choose not to attend, which happens all the time, then we would go back to the school that student came from, because each public middle school in all jurisdictions has a floor number, 1.5% of the total number of 8th grade students, not who applied, but total 8th grade students. The board set this 1.5% number back in 2020. So we go back to the school where the decline came from, and it is quite possible that most every middle school has its own wait pool. And so we would go back and look at then the next strongest wait pool students based upon their evaluation. And they in turn then would potentially then receive an offer. Well, that sort of process happens throughout the summer, because ultimately we're trying to make sure that the first day of school, all 550 seats are in fact filled. And this year, I believe it was August 10th, when we sent out the final email saying that there will be no additional offers, the wait pool is closed, and basically it's the end of the process. So that is, that's how that happens. So then at that point in time, it's closed. Jeremy, can you think of anything else relating to that?
Well, the one thing that I'll add is there was a question about how the 1.5 is calculated, and do we know what the numbers are at this point in time? So no, we don't know what the numbers are for any of our middle or public middle schools at this point. It's based off of your 8th grade population from September membership. So September membership just happened a couple of weeks ago. And so I'll actually be working with each of our jurisdictions to identify what the numbers of 8th grade student population is at each school. And then we just calculate that out to 1.5%. So the reality is is you could figure out your own school if you just look at September membership, because that's the numbers that we use across all of our public schools to identify what that is. What I can tell you is that range for most schools, we do have a couple schools that fall outside of that. Most schools fall between like 3 and probably 7 or 8 students, because of that's the size of the 8th grade population at your particular school. So that's kind of the number. And once we find that out, that's what we will use. We'll use that for our determination. We don't post that on the website. The number is really small, to be quite honest. It is a number that's below what our posting number is. So we don't release numbers that are below 10, because ultimately, if you fill all of your allocated seats, but your allocated seats are 4, we don't want anyone to be able to determine who those 4 students were. And so we're very careful with releasing that decision. That's not to say that people can't go and figure it out. They certainly can. They know the process, and you can share that with your, with your administrators if you need, if that's a question that comes up, or if you have a direct question, you certainly can ask us as well. So we can answer that as well. In terms of, there was a question about an email. We are looking to get an email drafted to send out to all of our students. We can directly send that to our students here in Fairfax County because we have an email system. We can share that with our liaison counselors. We'll also share that with our primary out-of-county contacts. So in Arlington, that's Jeanette Allen. In Falls Church, it is either William Bates or Peter Weilman. In Loudon, it's Wendy King. And in Prince William, it's Karima Wesselhoff. We'll send it to them in hopes that either you or they are able to send it out to the community of, for the appropriate students. So that way there is some communication and invitation out to those students who qualify for them to ultimately consider applying if that's what they, if that's what they so want to do. Okay, so big question. Nicole asks about GPA. As far as I'm aware, there is not a single middle school that calculates out GPA. And even if you did, your GPA would be calculated out to include all courses. So we don't include all of the courses in our process. So one of the things that I know that I speak to, along with certainly Linda and Nancy, I'm sure speak to this as well, is I turn this around to the students. If this student is considering applying to TJ, it's a simple math formula that they calculate out their own GPA. They should not be coming to you and saying, Mr. So-and-so or Mrs. So-and-so, what's my GPA? Do I qualify? It is a 4.0 scale. In fact, actually, I think I have it on our website. I can just share the screen. Give me just a moment. I got to pull up the website. So Fairfax County uses this GPA process, and here you can actually see what courses are included. Don't forget, we are including that summer school math class in here if the student has taken it. But you can see what the scale is. So this is what we use to calculate out each of the grades. And we direct students to this page to ensure that they're actually able to go through and calculate it out. So the end of the year marks for 7th grade is a full credit mark. And then first quarter, 8th grade. And we know that there are some of you are on a trimester, but the first quarter, 8th grade is a quarter mark as well. We do not round up within the GPA. We do not add weighting to the GPA. And we don't go above the 4.0. So for those of you that are in Loudon, I know that your A+ is equivalent to a 4.3. We actually pull that down to a 4.0. So this is where we ask them to go through that. We evaluate this internally within the application system. But you certainly could direct the students here to be able to figure this out and calculate it out themselves. Great question about the percentages. Let me reshare the screen. Here is your percentages. So this 100-point scale will show you the equation to what is which letter grade. So from you entering grades for us, if you use the 100-point scale, what I would encourage you when you go to enter that at the appropriate time, just pop this grade, this up on your page, and this is linked off of our webpage. And if when you sit down and you go to do this and you've forgotten, just send us an email and we can send you the link to this page. But this gives you the idea of where each of those kind of GPAs fall, along with the 100-point scale. Okay.
I do not see any other questions, and we are at 10:57. We can all be reached by email. You've got the admissions address that was there previously. We thank you all for being here, but we're going to be here with you through the whole process. So whatever you need, we have a reputation for being very responsive in a speedy fashion, and we all believe in that. So we look forward to hearing from you with any questions now, later, whatever it is. We're here for you. So thank you for what you do, guys. And we look forward to a wonderful year. Talk to you guys later.